Hey guys, what's up? I'm Christian Taylor, and the browser battles are getting heated. So I've been a Chrome user for a long time. Several years, well really as long as I can remember. Now I've always heard, why don't you try Firefox? Switch to Firefox. There's this loyal user base for Firefox that's very passionate about it. Kind of how I see the Linux user base. There's those people that just say, oh, you just don't get it, it's so much better. But I can never get behind it for one reason. The graphics sucked. Yeah, I know you're probably cringing because why would I pick a browser based on graphics? To be fair, I do value performance, but I also value graphics at least to the slightest bit. And let's face it, Firefox didn't just look like a potato, it looked like an overbaked potato. It was pretty bad. But with the introduction of Firefox Quantum and the new flat UI, I was like, okay, Firefox is actually attempting to please the masses now. Yeah, I think I could try this. So I switched to Firefox for 1 week. I removed the icon for Chrome, I replaced it with Firefox, and I faithfully used it on both mobile and desktop for 7 days. Here's my experience. Now my first impressions are I really like the UI. It's clean and simple, it has that minimal look that I like, and I gotta say, Firefox is, well, faster. That's just a fact. It's more memory and battery efficient than Chrome is, and I legitimately noticed that pages were snappier to load. I also want to say it's a huge benefit that you're not surrendering as much data to the Google overlord. Because we all know Google has their ulterior motives with Chrome. They're not just going to make a browser, being the web search giant they are, out of the kindness of their heart. They absolutely have the ulterior motive of collecting data. Now Mozilla takes a very offhand approach. They are a non-profit organization, and I'm not saying they're like completely trustworthy or you should just trust that they're never using your data for anything, but generally they do have a better reputation at respecting your privacy and data and not having as much of a hands-on approach. So the concept of Firefox Quantum is great. It's speedy, it has a clean and simple UI, it has better ethics on how it handles your data, but then this is when I started to run into some problems. First of all, my biggest complaint with any other browser besides Chrome is plugin availability. I use some core plugins like Yappy to sync text messages from my phone to my computer, and these plugins are not available in the form of a desktop app. The only way you can get that kind of functionality is through the Google Chrome plugin. With that not being available on Firefox, that is a huge downside in my book for what I use it for. Now also, some of the plugins that are available do not function as well. An example of this is the LastPass plugin doesn't allow you to copy a password by selecting a site from the plugin menu. This is something you can do in Chrome, and I actually use it a lot when the autofill function doesn't work. In Firefox, I actually have to hit edit, wait for the vault to open and click the I to reveal the password, and copy and paste it from there. Now this works, but it is a huge pain over the convenience that the Chrome version offers. In addition, I noticed that some sites have funky issues compared to Chrome. I think this has to do with the plugins I had installed, but I had all of the same plugins installed on Firefox as I did on Chrome. And you can see in my comparison, there are many times, a lot of situations I ran into where things just didn't work. There were text fields that weren't showing up. Or the plugin I used called Grammarly to check my spelling and grammar, it just wouldn't work. It would tell me there was an issue with the text, but it wouldn't underline it in red consistently like it did in Chrome. That was really frustrating to me, knowing that there was an error in my text, but it just wasn't showing up and there was no way I could fix it. Firefox also has other quirks, such as 4K video and YouTube not being enabled by default. Initially, I thought this wasn't supported at all, but I had to dig around in the experimental settings menu to figure out that you can enable support for it. It's apparently just buggy, and I guess it's more of a trial/experiment, which is why it's not enabled by default. Now, when I did enable 4K video, I didn't have any problems playing it. It was smooth, no glitches, so that was all fine with me once I enabled it. Now, another thing I want to mention is if you're heavily involved in the Google ecosystem, you're going to have some problems with Firefox. What I mean is, stuff like Google Cast is not there, for obvious reasons. That's Google's proprietary technology. But if you use a Chromecast and or a Google Home, I personally use both, that means you won't be able to cast a tab to your TV or cast audio to your Google Home from your browser. It's just not gonna work. For obvious reasons, Google restricts that to Chrome because they want you to use that browser. So for me, that was a little bit annoying not having that functionality. So what's the conclusion I came to? Well, I have to say, despite the quirks, I did enjoy using Firefox for 7 days. I would say if you're looking for a browser and you're not heavily invested in the Google ecosystem and plugins are not important to you, maybe you only use a couple that are available on there, or you don't use plugins at all, or you just need a plugin like an ad blocker, then I would say I have to recommend Firefox Quantum over Chrome. It really is snappier, it has battery saving features, and overall I just feel better about it. Sometimes I'm a little bit creeped out with how much data I'm surrendering to Google, and it just makes me feel like it's a more hands-off approach to my data. In addition, the new clean and simple UI and the slick animations are very awesome. However, for me, I am not switching to Firefox. The reason being is I am heavily reliant upon plugins, and plugins that are either exclusive to Google Chrome or they work better in Google Chrome. Expanding on this, I am also heavy into the Google ecosystem, so I really do enjoy features like casting to my Google Home and casting to a Chromecast. And these are things that I'm not ready to let go of. If Firefox improved functionality for those aspects, I gotta say, I'd be switching. But due to the quirks with poor functioning plugins, lack of availability for plugins, and no support for Google Cast, for now, I'll be sticking to Google Chrome. So which browser do you guys use? Which one is right for you in this especially heated battle between browsers? Definitely be sure to drop a comment down below and answer the poll up in the corner. With that said, if you want to be among the first to know when I release new content, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when I release new videos. Leave a like if you like this video, leave a dislike if you didn't like it, but at least tell me why in the comments. With that said, I'll catch you guys next time.